Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Before we call the meeting to order, I just wanted to talk briefly about public participation in our meetings. And so prior to the beginning of this meeting, I would just like to take a moment to go through the mechanisms that allow for public participation in the board's business pursuant to policy 2.6, which is available on our website. Specifically, in order to make a presentation at the board meeting, section 4 of policy 2.6 provides that requests to present must be made no later than 10 days prior to the date of the meeting. Also, further, our board publishes letters from our public in an agenda, provides responses from the appropriate district person, such as the board or district staff, and publishes the responses as well. Finally, if you look at the last page of the agenda, that outlines how questions can be put forward at the meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order, and it's with great respect and humility that we honor the lands of the Snuneymuxw people. The Snuneymuxw people maintain their profound, unique, and spiritual connection to the land through ageless traditions, teachings, stewardship, and expressions of reciprocity. We have no items to transfer to open this evening. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in order? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Liana, seconded by Leanne. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 7, approval of the minutes. Motion reads that the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting held on August 30th, 2023 be adopted. Do we have a mover? Moved by Leanne, seconded by Tanya. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to the section 72 sub 3 report. The motion reads that the section 72 sub 3 report from the closed Board of Education meeting on August 30th, 2023 and the special closed Board of Education meeting on September 12th, 2023 be received. We have a mover. Moved by Leanna, seconded by Chantel. All in favor? Carried. Announcements and reminders. We have our Education Committee meeting scheduled for October 4th, 2023. Our Business Committee on October 11th, 2023. Our Board of Education meeting on October 25th, 2023. As well, we have the statutory holiday October 1st, 2023, which is observed for Truth and Reconciliation Day. We have no presentations this evening, so we'll move on to section 11, correspondence. First piece of correspondence from the Ministry of Education and Childcare, Deputy Minister Christina, did I pronounce this right? Zacharuk. So there's a suggested motion. Are there any questions or trustee that'd like to move the motion? Chantel?
That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, refer the correspondence from the Ministry of Education and Childcare to be received and filed.
Do we have a seconder? Tom? Would you like to motivate the motion, Chantal?
I think it's fairly self-explanatory.
Thank you. Any questions?
You to Mr. Walsh, I imagine, or Superintendent Saywell. I read that letter and I'm not quite sure I entirely understand what they're saying. Are they just basically brushing us off, or is there still hope here that we could? Yeah.
I think I might find a little more diplomatic way to say that, yeah. But I'll leave it up.
And I apologize. Yeah, I didn't mean to put it quite so bluntly, but.
Well, perhaps I can just briefly address that, Chair, and thank you again. Sorry, I'm away this evening. So yes, I suppose it is the thank you, but we're not going to do something. But I do know that it's definitely in the ministry's wheelhouse. And we've been actively sharing it as well behind the scenes, all the correspondence with the districts that are particularly impacted. So Abbotsford, I believe Vernon, 22, if that's Vernon, as well as Campbell River are in very similar situations as us. And I know that Vernon, if it's the right one, is actually quite actively lobbying themselves at this point. And so there may be further opportunities as the groups most impacted for further conversations. So I don't actually think it's completely closed yet. I don't suspect we're going to see a change for the next budget, but I don't see it as being something that can't be addressed.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Mark. And if I may just add that anytime we can raise an issue like this with the ministry and get a response from the deputy minister, I think even though it wasn't the outcome we were looking for, I think at least it raised awareness, and partly that was part of it. So I think I'm hopeful for the future, and we'll just have to keep on this. Okay, any other comments, questions? Call the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to 11.2, correspondence regarding NLPS support for school water stewards program. There's a recommended motion. I'll look for a trustee that'd like to move the motion. Tanya.
Thank you. Oops, I had it right here. Where'd it go? That the Board of Education of School District number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, refer the correspondence from NALT to be received and filed.
We have a seconder. Naomi, would you like to motivate Tanya?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It was a
Any
Thank you,
discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 11.3, correspondence from the Office of the Ombudsperson regarding the quarterly reports for July 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. We have a trustee that would like to move the motion. Tom?
That the Board of Education of School District number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, refer the correspondence from the Office of the Ombudsperson to be received and filed.
We have a seconder for the motion. Sorry, Mark. Okay. Would you like to motivate the motion, Tom?
No.
Okay. Any discussion?
Right, so through you, Chair, to whoever would like to answer this question, it's a curiosity question in regards to the what's written on page 19 from the Ombudsperson regarding file 21-019067. I'm wondering if there's been a follow-up from this person in regards to getting a review after 1 year, because it said excluded persons to request a review after 1 year. I'm just curious if that's happened or.
Not sure who would like to take that question. Mark, are you able to answer that question? And if not, maybe we can get you an answer.
I can answer. As far as, sorry, we have not received a request for review at this time.
Okay. Thank you. No follow-up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I will call the question on the motion. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 11.4, correspondence from D. Glendenning regarding education assistance and community support program. Is there a trustee willing to move the motion? Yeah.
Board of Education of School District number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, refer the correspondence from D. Glendenning to staff for response.
We have a seconder. Leanna, would you like to motivate? Nope. Any discussion? Raquel?
Sure. I have another curiosity question, just to, because this is brought up in regards to a driver's license being required. not to get too far into the details or anything like that, but is that like a requirement, or is that something that could even be answered? Now that I think about it, I realize that it might not even be able to be answered. But is that a requirement that we have that for educational assistants, that they have a?
Perhaps I can ask Sean if he could respond.
Through Chair, I'm not certain if it is for this position or not. For many of our positions, a driver's license is required. Those are positions typically that could be required during their day to move between sites. And so for those positions, we do require a driver's license, but I'll have to, if I get asked to take this away and come back with an answer to that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. No follow-up.
Thanks, Greg. I'd like to propose an amendment to this motion. I would propose the amendment read as follows. That the Board of Education of School District 68 and I'm Lady Smith refer the correspondence from D. Glendening to staff for response and CC a copy to trustees. Because I'd like to know our response.
Okay. Can I just confirm before we second that motion that all of our correspondence that we send out is posted to the website? So I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but if you want it specifically sent to trustees, we can definitely put that motion on the floor and ask for a seconder. Just so everyone's aware, all of the correspondence is posted on our website. So if we ever want to know anything that gets sent out on any of this stuff, we can all go there.
Right. Yeah, that's the motion I want.
Okay.
And I can speak on the reason why.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Tom? Mark?
Thanks, Greg. The reason is it'll be a lot faster for us to get that because it comes right away. We get notified. Also, I think that the issue of our active transportation, our environmental stewardship, these are issues that are important for me, important for all of us. And having a driver's license requirement to have an EA in a climate where we're looking for employees, it just doesn't feel very well in my heart. So for that, in my mind, so for that reason, I'd like a timely response so I can chew on it and, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so we'll go to discussion on the amendment. Discussion on the. Seeing none. Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Carried.
You have a question?
Okay, Tom?
Not on the amendment.
Okay, so we're going back to the motion as amended and your questions related to that.
It's related to the content of the
Okay.
letter. Yeah. Okay. Question through you, Chair, to whoever can answer it. The correspondence seems to refer to paying a fee, and I'm wondering if that's to BIU or to some post-secondary. And then I'm looking for a solution that, if we are doing this, like, part of me says that's not really us, and part of me says we could be informing the local post-secondaries that this is now something you look for in some of the jobs. Because to me the correspondence is, yeah, it's too bad that they didn't get a job, but I think their frustration is that they didn't know this was going to be a thing. Anyway, I don't know if anyone can answer that. Is the fee taken to be the fee for the program at post-secondary?
Sean?
Through you, Chair. Yes, I believe what they're talking about is before they go through the educational program at post-secondary. That's what it appears to me to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have an amended motion on the floor. Is everyone clear on what the amendment was and what you're being asked to vote on? Okay. Call the question on the motion as amended. All in favor? Okay. Moving on to new business. under 12.1, the audited financial statements. Mr. Walsh.
Good evening, and thank you. So the first item that you'll see this evening is associated with the audited financial statements that is required to be passed by the board and submitted to the Ministry of Education here in a couple of days. So I believe our traditional process is to ask KPMG to provide a review of the audit associated with the financial statements prior to the board's passage of them. Also attached, and again, I want to take this opportunity publicly to really applaud the work of our finance team, and particularly Ms. Lowe, who is also here this evening on the financial analysis and discussion. It's an important document, and it's a document that I will probably try to weave in, as I noted at the business committee meeting, in more of what we do, because really it's backwards looking, but it shows so much of what the district's up to and is a good reminder to our community as well as trustees. This is the sheer volume of the work that we do, and here's how we're trying to meet the board's goals. But Chair, if I could turn it over to Lenora Lee to review prior to the board's consideration of a motion.
Please. Welcome, Lenora. You're muted, Lenora.
Great, thank you for having me at your meeting tonight. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the highlights of the audit findings report, which we did review in detail, as well as a couple highlights from the financial statements as well. So in terms of the overall audit status, we are substantially complete our audit. There are no outstanding matters at this time, other than approval of the financial statements by the board. Our auditor's report is a clean and unqualified opinion, and it indicates the financial statements do not contain any material errors, and they are prepared based on the rules that the Ministry of Education and Childcare require the school district to follow. There were no significant issues noted as part of our audit process. The areas of focus were as planned around things such as the capital additions, revenue received from ministry and other sources, expenses, primarily salaries and benefits, as well as the adoption of a new accounting standard around asset retirement obligations. We did not note any material accumulated uncorrected audit differences, and as a result, there was no qualifications noted in our auditor's report. Overall, this is a really clean position for the school district to be in, and a very supportive position that management is placing due diligence in the transactions as they occur throughout the year, such that there's no significant changes in the accumulated statements at the end of the year. In terms of the financial statements themselves, I draw your attention to the financial statement discussion and analysis document, in particular page 84. This document prepared by management provides a very easy to read summary of the financial statements, which are many, many pages long, but are described in very easy to understand manner in the financial statement discussion and analysis. On page 84, there's a summary of the revenues and expenses for the year by fund. So the three pools of money that the school district reports under: the operating fund, which tracks most of the day-to-day expenses, the special purpose fund, as well as the capital fund. Overall, the total surplus is the net of revenues minus expenses for the year. And in the total column, you'll see a total of $182,134. That indicates that the school district essentially spent all of its revenues that it earned during the year, and the leftover is a very, very small margin, 0.09% of total revenue for the year. The surplus end of year bottom line number, it highlighted in yellow. This represents the accumulated surpluses of the school district since inception. Again, it is presented by fund, operating, special purpose, and capital. and the accumulated surplus shows a total of approximately 43 million. The details of that surplus are noted in the financial statements on page 47 of the package, and this was previously reviewed by the committee. There are a number of notes in terms of what the total is made up of. In terms of the operating fund accumulated surplus, that was approximately 8.5 million at the end of the year, of which 5.8 is already restricted for a number of reasons and purposes. For example, for anticipated unusual expenses, targeted funds, which are restricted to be spent on certain items, as well as operations spanning multiple school years, so projects that may have started at year end but have not yet finished. There's an unrestricted operating surplus reserve of 2.7 million, which is fairly small at about 1.6% of total expenses for the year. That's really meant as contingency, any other unexpected unusual items during the course of the year. The capital fund shows a total accumulated surplus of 34 million, and the majority of that balance represents funds that are already spent. So the value of capital assets, buildings, facilities that have already been purchased and the school district has made an investment into them. Of the 34 million surplus, approximately 30 million has already been invested into capital assets, and the balance, approximately 4.6 million, represents local capital, or the surplus through which the school needs to fund things that are not funded through the ministry. For example, if there were portables, laptop, other IT infrastructure, those are primarily the funds used for those acquisitions. Those were the couple highlights of the financial statements that I wanted to touch on. Again, there's a lot of detail within them. The financial statement discussion and analysis document is a great summary for some of the highlights. I'd also like to express our appreciation to the finance team with the collaboration and support in conducting the audit this year, and happy to present that unqualified clean audit opinion for this year. Happy to address any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Lenora. Appreciate the presentation and the work. Trustees, are there any questions? I don't see any questions. Is there somebody who would like to move the motion? Dan?
That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Lady Smith, receive and approve the 2022/2023 audited financial statement.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Who did I see first? I think it was Leanna. Would you like to motivate? No?
Nothing.
Okay. Any discussion? I don't see any. Tom?
Just to publicly express our appreciation for the firm, Lenora and Cameron, for their work tonight. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Lenora. Appreciate you coming this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 12.2, the board annual work plan. So I'll just draw your attention briefly to page 100 of our agenda. There's an action sheet there for your reading pleasure. I'd just like to thank staff and trustees for their time and effort in putting this document together. I think this does a really good job of acting as our roadmap for the coming year. And it will definitely be a good tool to guide our work. So if there's any questions or discussion, we can take those. Otherwise, we have a motion. And sorry, I saw your hand go up, Chantel.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Chair, for the strategic plan. I've looked at it quite extensively, and while I realize like this work plan is kind of set in stone, there's still some things that can be added. Sort of more of a living document in a way. in case there's, you know, things that come up, right, that we can add to the agenda. But there is one thing that I was kind of looking at in here and thinking about when we go to the budget time and how things impact our budget. And I look at the education committee and the January Department of Learning Services presentations and things like that, that topic. I was hoping to actually put through a motion to add something to that education committee meeting. If that is the way that we could do it, or if I could just ask that it be added to our work plan.
My preference would be if it was a motion.
Okay, fantastic.
Maybe what we could do is request that your amendment be added through a motion, and if it's supported, then we can read in second motion as amended, perhaps.
Okay.
Everyone okay with that approach? Tom?
By the process a bit for myself, is that okay? I have a question. What's the difference between putting it on this plan and just giving the rest of the board notice of motion and dealing with it on the agenda at that time? And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying, what's the difference?
I think from my perspective, what I'd hope that we could do as a board is use this work plan as our guiding document for everything that we're asking staff to support the board this year on. So with that comes the ask that if it's not on the work plan and it's not emergent, that we don't ask staff to spend their time doing it. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for us to achieve everything that's in our work plan, plus, you know, bringing in more staff time and resources to support other things. So the preference would be, if we know of things we want to work on, that we include them in the work plan so that we know they're coming and we can plan accordingly.
Thank you. That's exactly the spirit in which I would like to do the motion now, instead of bringing it forward as an emergent item, because I believe that my motion is going to require some time to put it together. So would you like me to read it out now, or do we make it into an amended motion?
I think if you propose a motion, as long as Karen can try to get it down, or if you could post it in the chat. I'm not sure what form you have it in, but
okay.
Go ahead.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Lady Smith, direct the superintendent to direct staff to present at January's 2024 education meeting a review of all the educational programs, including alternative learning programs within the school district as it pertains to the budget and the board's current strategic plan of inclusion and student success.
Okay. Is it possible to post that in the chat?
Very much, yes.
Thank you. We'll just, we have a seconder. Mark, thank you. I'm just going to give Chantel a quick sec to post the motion in the chat so we can all see it. Okay, Chantel, would you like to motivate your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Greg. The reason why I'm asking this is, as trustees, we need kind of the full picture of the district programming. And this is really in order to understand the budget implications and student success. So it's really looking at, you know, we see the budget in one way, and this is looking at the budget kind of in a different way, in a different light. And that kind of gives us more of a different scope of how things are going when it comes to our programming in the district.
Okay.
So that's why I'd like to have that reporting.
Okay. Any questions? Mark?
Thanks, Greg. Just speaking in favor of the motion real briefly. This serves our benefit in terms of wrapping our heads around things a little bit earlier. This is why I'm speaking in support of it. It also allows the public greater opportunity for input. For that reason, I support it. and it gives us a more broad and thorough look at what we plan, and hopefully that it gives us the opportunity, and the public the opportunity, and parents, staff, everyone else, the opportunity to have as much heads up as possible on what may be coming down the pipe. So I'm supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? I have a, oh, go ahead, Tom. Okay. I have a question through to staff. Based on the your understanding of the motion, would the proposed timing give you enough time to prepare to include that in the presentation?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. Not sure if this was copied correctly, but it says review of all the educational programming. That missing one that's including the learning program. That's sort of a broad review of all educational programming at that time.
I actually didn't know how to.
Specifically, and that's the question is, do we have a common understanding of what that means? Because I'm not sure I'm saying it right, actually, so.
So I guess just coming back to my question, I just want to make sure before I put my hand up in support of the motion that I understand what you want to achieve, and that staff understands what you're asking for and is able to deliver that in the time that you're suggesting.
Thank you. Yeah. If I could through you, Chair, explain a little bit further what that means, and maybe we need to change the language a little bit so that we all kind of have that common understanding of what that means. Honestly, it's not an educational programming as in like each classroom or anything like that. It's more the alternative programming, I think, is more what I'm speaking about as well. Honestly, I'm not quite sure what other programming there is besides the alternative programming. So maybe that's part of the picture as well. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think we more mean alternative learning programs besides the regular everyday school stuff.
Scott?
Yeah, so that would involve. Yeah, just to be clear, that that would involve all the sort of programming that we wouldn't call sort of regular traditional neighborhood school programming.
Yeah.
So the Career Technical Center, underneath adult programming, yeah, it's like continuing ed type things or learning alternatives. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I take out the educational programming instead, right? Alternative learning programming? Would that be
So I
better?
guess, sorry, I'm just going to bring us back a little bit.
Great.
So my question firstly was through to staff, based on, I guess, this understanding, is this enough time for one, and do you understand what the motion is asking?
Thank you, through you.
And the time, sorry.
Timing is excellent.
Okay. And now I'll come back to you, Chantal. So just to be clear, we have a motion that's been seconded. So if maybe what I would suggest to just keep this clean, can we just maybe vote and turn it down and then fix it in a new motion?
Okay.
Would that suit you?
Yep. Fair enough.
Okay. Well, we could, but I'll leave it
Do
to
it
the
fast.
floor.
I'm willing to put it forward, have it go down, and then we revise the motion and put it back on the floor.
Okay. So let's call the vote. All in favor? Okay, denied. Oh, and I'll bring it back to you.
Great. So, hello everyone. I would like to put through a motion. It's a really great one. That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, and I'm Lady Smith, direct the superintendent to direct staff to present at January's 2024 education meeting a review of all the alternative learning programs within the school district as it pertains to the budget and the board's current strategic plan of inclusion and student success.
We have a seconder. Mark, I'm just going to confirm with Karen. Were you able to get that, Karen? Discussion. I'll start a list. Tom and anyone else?
Through you, Chair, to the mover. Thank you for this. I have every intention of supporting it. I'm asking if you can clarify what you mean by the last couple of sentences as it pertains to the budget and the board's current strategic plan of inclusion and student success. And I'm wondering to a question of, do we need that? Do you have any personal connection to that language?
No exactly personal connection to it, but our purview is the budget and our purview is the strategic plan and inclusion and student success, and to see how that ties all in together. How it pertains to the budget is finding out kind of how it hits that, right? How it affects every year, and you know, if we look at it year over year, we have to anticipate too that costs will go up. So it's something that I think is germane to the January Education Committee plan that was already written. So that's why I put that into the January one. Yeah, I hope that answered your question a little bit, Tom.
Thank you. No, I'll leave it alone. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone, any other comments or questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
so we're,
No, actually, it was a different matter. I'm losing my train of thought.
okay, so we'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? Sorry, Kenny, was that?
I'm in favor.
Okay, carried, thank you. So now we will go back to the suggested motion regarding the board annual work plan. My suggestion would be that we add as amended, but I'll leave that to the mover.
Chair, before we get to that, there was one thing I've been wondering about. I have been working on a motion to ask for a report just around artificial intelligence and the potential risks of AI in terms of bullying and misuse of it by kids. And I'm wondering, I've been trying to figure out where it might fit in the work plan, if it already does fit in somewhere in the work plan, or could be already fit in with the work plan, which would be my preference rather than trying to add something to it. And I've just been looking here. So I would love input from staff on that.
But through you, direct, I could commit to that.
Okay,
Would
thank you.
that meet your needs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so someone willing to move the motion?
Oh, I had a question before.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Greg. Through you to staff, I'm looking at the agenda for traffic. Does that include, and that's for November in the business committee, which carries over, November, the business committee carries over to the next month for the, or I believe it'd be in January for the regular board. My question is, the traffic discussion at the business committee, does that include the consultation that was done regarding Randerson Ridge that we paid a whole whack of money for?
Sure, maybe Mark, you could help with that.
So, well, certainly if it's ready, that we would have that coming forward. I have to check with Pete though if it's teed up, but I would anticipate it would be.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark.
Great, okay. Would somebody like to move the motion?
Oh, okay.
Mark?
Okay. Everybody can hear me fine, so it's all for the record. I have it right here. There we go. That the Board of Education of School District number 68 in Nanaimo Ladysmith adopt the board's 2023-2024 annual work plan as amended.
Mark, you have a seconder? Tom, any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to section 13, senior staff reports. 13.1, amended capital bylaw. Mr. Walsh.
Great, thank you, Chair. So here's a tidy piece of good news for the board this evening is we've received additional funding for 3 various aspects associated with capital. And in order to receive that funding, we need to pass an amended bylaw. And in fact, there's supposed to have been another one, but they kind of came at the same time. So in talks to the ministry, it'll just be the one, which is why we're going from 1 to 3 and skipping 2. And so the 3 items are, 1 is a little bit of money for electric bus support. 2, the biggest item is additional support for Brecken boiler upgrades. And then the last one is one that is, and I think we've talked about this in previous capital updates, that with respect to approval, we're not going to be trumpeting it to the public yet, because this will be something that will be announced. It's, again, the ministry's bailiwick to publicly announce, although we're talking about it publicly, support for extended food preparation infrastructure at Woodlands to be able to support the Naima Ladysmith Foundation prepare the meals that are going to be supported by the food program. This is the first tranche of funding with respect to food expansion. We're also looking at Wellington getting additional support so they can kind of look more like the other secondary schools that we have. And then finally, we're looking at general updates throughout the system where there's additional minor capital needs for food stores, etc. We will be bringing a report in October on the preliminary standing of the actual how the food program is going out to schools. But this just gets essentially Woodlands a fairly significant upgrade to be able to support that work by the foundation.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions for Mark before we consider the motion? Okay, anyone willing to move the motion? Tanya?
Now, I think I've lost the sheet. Where is it on? Can you read it for me? I don't have it here. Oh, thank you. I was reading the work plan and lost track of it. That the Board of Thank you. That the Board of Education approve the amendment to capital bylaw number 22/2023, 22/23/24, CPSDB D6801 to read capital bylaw number 2023/24 CPSD 68-03, reflecting the Ministry of Education and Child Care's amendment to the annual programs funding agreement.
Thank you, Tanya.
Sorry about that.
I think there might be.
Yeah.
Stand by one. I don't know. We don't need to read that again. That's okay. So do we have a seconder? Chantel? Any discussion? Chantel?
So actually, one says -01 and the other one says -03. Oh. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 13.2, the revised 2022-2023 surplus allocation. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. And so this item was going to be under the Business Committee, which was recommended the motion coming out of business with respect to the surplus. Just between then and now, we found one minor shift that's reflected in the financial statements, and that's equivalent to $14,000. So we had attributed $14,000 in a surplus to our our targeted operating grant Indigenous supplement that actually should have just been in the generic operating surplus. So what essentially has happened is the supplement, the surplus in that fund is declined by $14,000. Department's now aware. Operating fund surplus has gone up by $14,000, and you'll see that the recommendation just adds that $14,000 to what we were already recommending to the board with respect to supports for ELL and inclusion. Otherwise, nothing else is changed.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions? Someone like to move the motion? Brianna?
That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, approve the recommendations contained in this action sheet to allocate the unrestricted surplus to support the board's goals.
Thank you. Seconded by Naomi. Would you like to motivate the motion? No. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Oh, I
gotta
was
do
in
it.
favor.
Sorry. Carried. Thank you. Right. Moving on to the business committee. So get your reading ready, Tanya.
Alrighty,
We have a little bit to do tonight.
we
So
do. Sorry about that.
14.1 business committee, and I'll pass it over to you. We have 4 motions this evening.
Okay, let me just make sure that my camera is on because I realized it hasn't been. Financial plan.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Chantel, would you like to motivate Tanya?
I think.
Thank you, Tanya. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Back to you, Tanya, for number 2.
That the Board of Education. Oh, thank you. Thank you. The Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, receive the draft policy, public interest disclosure policy, and circulate as a notice of motion for 30 days utilizing the consultation process as per board governance section 1, 2.7, policy development.
Seconder. Would you like to motivate?
This is something that we are required to do. I think staff gave us a very good explanation of what its purpose is, and this is just part of our process. So I think it's ready to go out.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Number 3, Tanya.
Next, the Board of Education of School District Number 68, the Nanaimo Ladysmith, receive the executive compensation report as information and direct the board chair to sign an attestation letter acknowledging compensation paid to executive staff during the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
We have a seconder. Leanne, would you like to motivate?
Again, this is just a housekeeping requirement thing that we do every year. There was nothing nothing concerning in the report, and it's just something we need to do.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. And last but not least, Tanya.
That the Board of Education of School District Number 68, Nanaimo Ladysmith, approve the 2022-2023 Enhancing Student Learning Report and submit to the Ministry of Education and Childcare by September 30th, 2023.
We have a seconder. Leanne, would you like to motivate Tanya?
Thank you. Again, I know that in reading that report, there's definitely some areas where I would love to dig in more as a group, but the submission is something that we are required to do by September 30th. So I think we need to approve that so that staff can keep us compliant with ministry requirements And then we can have that report to ask further questions as we go on through the year.
Any other discussion? A couple hands, Tom and then Naomi. Was there any on this side? Go ahead, Tom.
So I realize this is a bit of a compliance exercise, but is this the only opportunity to ask questions about the report?
Perhaps I'll go to Scott. That one.
Well, I would suggest not necessarily. This would be on our website and we could deal with it in another opportunity. That would design that on that.
Naomi?
Yeah, I looked over the report again and I had a bunch of questions. Really concerned about the grade levels, the percents that we're showing with especially particularly Indigenous students on reserves. That one really concerned me. I know there was a mention of solutions of what we're going to do, and there was mention of intensive outreach intervention. And so I had questions around how many Indigenous outreach workers do we have to help support students on reserve. And then I noticed the transitioning with numeracy in particular. The numbers don't really so they show the number of kids moving from grade 8 to grade 9, 9 to, or whatever, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, etc. But it doesn't reflect what they're achieving. So they're at 14% or something like that in numeracy on reserve, but yet they're all moving up a level. So I'm just wondering how that works, I guess, and then in the area where the place where you belong, the well-being piece, it's still quite low in that area as well. And then of course the transitioning to post-secondary, and those percents are quite low, which is concerning. And I know it was mentioned that there's a lot of jobs out there for young people and they're maybe not going directly to it, but also when I look at the number of students that are graduating with adult dogwoods and not the regular dogwood, that limits them in terms of their post-secondary experience and opportunity. So I had a whole bunch of questions. I don't know if this is the time now to have those answered. The big one for me is the intensive outreach, which was one of the things that we would do to help students. So I kind of want to know, what does that look like exactly?
Thanks, Naomi. Are you looking for an answer to that question tonight, or are you looking to get that information at some point in the future?
Yeah, I'm not really sure that can be all answered tonight, but I'm hoping, as Scott said, that this is an open document, so we can keep on referring to it throughout the year. We could maybe get answers as we go along.
Scott, would you like to
respond? Yeah, and I think it's in line with Tom's question in that there will be opportunities throughout the year as these reports come out, the student learning survey and the FSA results, and the how are we doing report. So there will be opportunity within the work plan to ask those questions while we have the learning services department here to give a comprehensive answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, is there any?
Thank you, Chair. Greg. Yeah, not the report that I think any of us were looking forward to seeing, but it's good to be honest about it. My main concern, and again, I don't need it answered tonight. I'm with Naomi and Scott that I think this deserves a more fulsome response, but I want to make a connection between the fact that earlier this year, we were asked to sign a letter to the ministry explaining that we left, I think it was $500,000 of money that was targeted to Indigenous education on the table. And to having done that and then see these results, I need to square that circle. I need to understand how and what kind of accountability isn't the right message, but $500,000, and if we're talking about individualized outreach, that could have gone a long way. So I really, I may be entertaining a motion at a future date to look for a report about what happened there and how we make sure that we live up to our values of spending today's money on today's dollars. And that's all the more important when the student is at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, any other comments? So I think what we heard was we heard that there will be opportunities to have some discussions related to not only how our Indigenous students are doing in relation to the FESL report, but overall student achievement as well. And I think it's really nice to hear from trustees and focusing in on student outcomes. So I appreciate the comments, and I too shared my concerns during the business committee on some of the findings of this report, and I would welcome further discussion as well. So hopefully we'll make that happen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we don't have anything to report out on the education committee. No unfinished business. We do have two for information items, the board motions report 16.1 on page 185 and 16.2 the trustee committee reports on page 189. Maybe we'll just pause there and see if anyone has any questions. Seeing none, do we have any questions in the chat here? I don't believe we do. No questions this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mark, seconded by Tanya. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone.